people don't want to be an avatar. People don't want to be a cartoon. When we want to have that trust, that authentic experience like we're having now, I would love to have the same experience with you, but albeit maybe in a three-dimensional immersive space.
Right.
But I really see Jasper.
Well, we are here with Brent Milliken of IMVERSE. Brent, thank you so much. People that know me or that know us both well know that you had a big role to play in me moving from Europe to Canada now 11 years ago. So thanks again for that. That was really great when we were both at Microsoft. But you are now running IMVERSE, an organization focused on holographic technology. So the first thing that I want to get into straight away is we've seen so much adoption of new exciting technologies in the last few years, which can only mean that the use cases that you've seen for holographic technology have exploded as well. So for you, running IMVERSE, what are those key trends that you see?
Well, obviously, I think on the back of the metaverse, and a lot of people getting excited about, 3D, how can I get into an immersive experience? There was a lot of excitement, of course, coming from the gaming world. You saw this transition to, let's say, the industrial metaverse. And so with headsets, devices, there's a really huge ecosystem out there. What makes IMVERSE interesting is the ability to live stream a holographic image. So photorealistic, you and me. One of the things that we saw in a lot of the enterprise use cases is people don't want to be an avatar. People don't want to be a cartoon. When we want to have that trust, that authentic experience like we're having now, I would love to have the same experience with you, but albeit maybe in a three-dimensional immersive space. Right. But I really see Jasper, right? So that's sort of the central starting point for IMVERSE in the sense of how can we replicate a real-life 3D experience being you and me. So that's the first thing. As for the use cases, you can think of, for instance, from a holographic collaboration, training and development, right? There are places like factories where they have a lights out policy. You and I want to be inside that factory, or at least inside a digital twin, where we want to maybe replace or train or educate someone who's new because we are still either remote or we just don't have access to that particular building or that particular space. So that's a classic one. And then I guess the second one we see really quickly is retail, and anything where you need a live shopping assistant, right? So most retail has been either bricks and mortars or, let's say, a very online brochure or catalog, right? We think we can get to about 90% of the, let's say, the retail experience, albeit virtual. But when you're photorealistic, you can create that white glove experience, because now when I'm buying, let's say, a luxury watch or a luxury object, I can now interface with the person as if I was actually in the boutique. The technology has advanced enough where you can really replicate reality and no more of this sort of Second Life cartoon stuff. Right. So I think that's another use case which we're pretty excited about right now.
Is it then fair to assume that, in the last 4 years, where we had a 3-year pandemic that forced everybody in remote work and what have you, for some industries that was really, really tough. For others, the need of new technology exploded. I'm thinking about cybersecurity, for example, but is it fair to assume that this massive, seismic shift that happened in the world, that really accelerated not just the delivery, but also the need for these kinds of scenarios?
I think the pandemic made everything possible in the sense, hey, this is possible. We can remote work. We can still be very productive. Sorry, excuse me. No worries. But what 3D piece brings is I can actually be there now. I don't necessarily need to be in the office or have a Zoom call 2D. I can actually interact with you, and we can share, we can collaborate. And that's the game changer, where once you get past the barrier that I don't necessarily need to be in the space together, but we can replicate that, you get the same human experience. And I think especially with, ESG, carbon, this becomes even more important, where, hey, as we become more international, more global, I want to be able to sit in the office with you, Jasper, and have that one-to-one moment. Because we know as salespeople, one-to-one is the most precious moment we can have, right? Right. So how do I get as close as possible to replicating that one-to-one moment? The other thing that's really exciting about now doing remote work and when we work in 3D, we've done a lot of studies, same with Google, where you see memory retention is about 30% higher. You see the attentiveness is much higher. So even scientifically, we have proof points now that engaging in 3D is much more compelling than your typical 2D Zoom or Teams call.
the current AI gold rush, where we're seeing new ideas come to life much faster, what's been the impact in holographic technology specifically? Like, are you seeing that as well, that your teams can now solve things with the help of artificial intelligence faster than you ever could before?
Yeah, so there are two trends I'm seeing right now. Specifically, when we talk about generative AI, the next wave, let's say past text, so ChatGPT that we're familiar with tends to be text-based. The next wave is going to be on images and videos, right? And we can already start to see a number of, let's say, AI models and papers where novel synthesis, there's these different techniques where how do I stitch and how do I use the AI to more rapidly create a three-dimensional image. Keep in mind that it's also hyper-realism. So we're not, let's say, creating a gaming environment that we've seen in the last 20, 30 years. We're actually replicating reality, and albeit now in 3D. So that's one trend where I think the AI is going to be able to, at hyper speed, pull together and recreate reality. The second piece where I think AI is kind of interesting is because traditionally, especially if you think of the gaming world, you need a lot of engineers, whether it be on Unity or on Unreal, and you needed them to create these engines and these gaming environments. What the AI can do now is pretty much replicate that last mile. So what you need now is a different sort of engineer to make the model, train the data, and then they say, hey, give me a 3D replica or digital twin of the headquarters of this building. That's where the AI is becoming. So there is going to be some dissemination of engineers, the type of engineers and programmers that we've seen in the past, because the AI can pretty much solve it. So you don't need the same type of engineers that you'd see in the past. So those are the two trends.
Okay. Anytime there's new technology kind of really maturing and exploding, there's always there are rightfully so also question marks that are being raised. There's a lot of people asking like, what are the dangers of AI? But then if we think about combining the speed and innovation of AI with the creation of 3D models that feel like reality, are there things that keep you up at night?
Yeah, like trying to figure out what the next opportunity is so I can build the next 3D Microsoft. Awesome. No, I don't. I think there's obviously a lot of concern, and that's quite so to think about how is this developing. I think we're at that sort of Cambrian moment where there is this explosion of different apps and different things now using these underlying techniques and technologies from AI. I think, to your point earlier, I've been in the tech business for over 40 years. I've seen all the main plateaus that we've reached. This is absolutely generative AI is one of those plateaus, just the same way. Cloud computing, mobile, the PC era, mainframe era, whatever you want to call it, Web 1, 2, 3, let's call it Web 4, actually, because this is something that's really fundamental. So no, there's nothing that really keeps me up at night other than saying, okay, how do I make sure I get into this space again? Because that's what's exciting about being in tech, right? That there's always this sort of reinvention. There's something that's just fundamentally, wow, what's the new business model? How do we go to market? All these kind of concepts. I think generative AI is getting that excitement in the same excitement I had when I was a young guy, just getting into this business. Yeah.
Brent, you're still a young guy. Come on. So 2024, to wrap us up, 2024 for Inverse, like what should we keep our eyes open for?
So we're going to go to market at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona at the end of February. We're releasing a new volumetric cloud platform. So we're actually running with Azure and Oracle. We've been able to, let's say, capture holograms with the mobile phone. So with your iPhone, this is pretty groundbreaking. For the most part, it's been a very heavy hardware footprint. You need the Azure Connect depth sensors, and you need like 10, 20, 100 cameras. We're able to do that now with mobile capture plus AI. So that's one idea where we're able to finish in the body reconstruction, denoise the hologram, and effectively make it much more accessible for anybody to create their own 3D content, for enterprises to do training and consume it also in a web browser. So that's what we're going to launch, HoloLife Cloud, in the end of February at MWC. So that's what you can expect from us. And I think that's going to be pretty groundbreaking, and that will put us definitely on parity with Apple and some of the big tech companies out there. The part that's really hard that people understand is that actually the problem we're solving on 3D is the distribution pipe. Most people don't realize that 3D is actually, the tech stack is very fragmented. And so trying to go from capture to the rendering, to the streaming, to the consumption. If you look at all the different devices, VR, AR headsets, as I said, now mobile capture, everything else, most people don't get that idea. There is no MP4 for 3D. Right. And there is no consistent way of how we communicate the protocols and stuff. So that's what we're solving. So hopefully you got that. Did you get that, Jesper?
Got it.
The idea of greenhouse thinking is, if the world is changed, why are organizations operating in the same way? What if an organization could emulate a greenhouse, right? With the right ingredients, with the right thinking, with the right systems, with the right models, so it can flourish.